7 bone-chilling bad friends horror stories that haunt you at night. Dangerous secrets exposed. On a night like no other, the air was thick with tension, and shadows danced in the corners of dull, old rooms. Pictures sat crooked on walls, and the dim light flickered menacingly, casting eerie shapes that sent chills down your spine. Everyone knew the tales, those whispered accusations of betrayal and horror lurking just a breath away. Friends turning into foes. Secrets deep enough to drown in. It was a perfect night for tales of bad friends, tales that made the heart race and skin crawl. Megan had always been the life of the party. With a laugh that grabbed hold of everyone, she floored people with her crazy stories. But one night, as they all gathered for chips and soda, her tales drifted into the dark. She recounted the night her best friend, Claire, had vanished without a trace, leaving everyone reeling. 6 months later, Claire's things were found buried behind an old barn, the air thick with the forgotten scent of innocence lost. The local gossip whispered that Claire wasn't the first to simply disappear. The room grew heavy. Everyone felt it. A reality too surreal to swallow. As shadows tried to creep closer, Sarah shared her own story. Her chest tightened as she recalled how her supposed friend, Jake, had turned up with strange cuts and bruises one too many times. Jake insisted they were just accidents. But the way he avoided eye contact, the shiver running through her, made her question everything. What accidents led to midnight trips to the hospital? He'd changed the subject, laugh it off, but Sarah knew better. Something deep inside screamed that darkness had found him, and it didn't want to let go. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. With hearts pounding and the taste of fear lingering, the group huddled closer, fueled by the chill that settled in. Each person had a story, threads weaving together a strange, dark tapestry of betrayal. As the night deepened, eyes glimmered with the frantic need for safety and answers. Could they truly trust their friends? Were they just one bad choice away from a horror that would redefine loyalty? In the flickering light, whispers seemed to slither in the air, warning them of the monsters lurking among friends. Was one of them hiding a secret too deadly to confess? As the fire crackled weakly, sending arrows of light flickering across the faces gathered in the room, a thick silence enveloped them. Each heart thudded in unison, filled with the weight of unimaginable secrets. It was Jenna's turn to share. Her voice trembled like a leaf caught in a sudden wind, desperate to break free from the oppressive atmosphere surrounding them. Jenna began, "You all know Mark, right? The guy who always knows the scoop." Her friends nodded, the mention of Mark triggering a subtle change in the air. She paused, swallowing the lump in her throat. "Well, he wasn't just a source of juicy gossip. He was also my best friend." "Until he wasn't," Sarah interjected, her eyes locked onto Jenna. "What happened?" With a shaky breath, Jenna pushed onward. "A few years back, Mark went off the grid for a month. Just vanished. No calls, no texts, nothing. We thought maybe he needed a break, things had been rough for him." A horrible chill slithered down her spine. "But then I saw the news. A body had been found in the river, wrapped in a blanket." Jenna's voice wavered dangerously. It was Mark's favorite blanket. The room collectively gasped. The cold air felt sharper now. It dug into their skin. Tension dripped like icy water. "Wait, what?" Ryan asked, confusion creasing his brow. "Did they ever identify him? Was it really Mark?" "He was identified." Jenna's voice dropped low. "But that wasn't the worst part. I found out afterward that Mark had a dark side. He was involved in dangerous things, drugs, gang connections. I had no idea. I always thought he was just the charming guy with the wild stories. Turns out, he was playing a dangerous game, and someone didn't play nice." As Jenna's eyes glossed over, the flickering shadows seemed to lean closer, eager to soak up every word she spoke. They found texts on his phone that mentioned me. He was worried for my safety. He was keeping something from me. Something big, and I still don't know what. Gasps filled the space once more. The air thickened with the realization. How well did they know their friends? What echoes of darkness lay within the connections they trusted? Just then, a loud crash resonated from the darkened hallway beyond the room, sending everyone into a panic. They turned as one, eyes darting to the door, breath held in their chests. Jenna's heart raced. What was that? Probably just the wind, Megan said, trying to sound nonchalant, but her shaky voice betrayed her. It's not windy, Sarah whispered. She was right. A heavy silence loomed, punctuated only by the sound of their increasing heartbeats. The door stood ajar, trembling as if something, or someone, awaited a cue to enter. But what if it wasn't just the wind? Should we check it out? Ryan suggested, inching towards the door, though his bravado seemed to wane. No! Jenna panicked, ripping her gaze from the doorway to scan her friends' faces. What if it's I don't know, something from Mark's world? Something dangerous? As fear dripped like a thick fog into their minds, their trust in one another crumbled. Everyone held their breath, the shadows closing in as they realized they weren't just sharing stories anymore. They were living a nightmare. Suddenly, a low, guttural sound echoed from the hallway, slicing through the tension thicker than fog. What was that? Megan stammered, her voice barely a whisper. Now, they had to face an unimaginable question. Who among them bore the most sinister secrets? And worse, would those secrets find them in the dark of night? The room vibrated with an uneasy energy, amplifying the fear swirling among them. The shadows flickered, dancing with the fire's weak light, but the dark hallway beyond felt alive, pulsing with dread. What if it's someone looking for Mark? Jenna's voice trembled, a mix of worry and disbelief creeping in. Her words hung in the air, thick as smoke. Could someone from his dangerous life have followed him, or worse, drawn her into it? I think we should really check it out, Ryan insisted, stepping forward as if drawn by an invisible force. His courage waned as he approached the doorway, heart racing, adrenaline surging like a wave. Stop! Don't! Jenna reached out, panic clawing at her throat. Frantically, she looked from face to face, searching for an ally. Mark was worried about something. You all heard what I said. His secrets, whatever he got involved in, could endanger us. We can't. Just before she could finish, another sound echoed from the dark. It was a thud, heavy and resonating, like a body hitting the ground. A cold sweat coated Jenna's skin. They were not alone. What if it's an intruder? Sarah whispered, her eyes wide. What if they know about Mark and are coming for us? Her voice shook with fear as she backed away towards the fireplace, arms crossed protectively around herself. The boldness that Ryan once wore like armor started to crack. Maybe we should call the police? He suggested, looking back toward the door as if fully expecting someone to step into view at any moment. Are you kidding? Jenna hissed, feeling the weight of the situation settle heavily on her chest. If Mark was involved with something serious, calling the cops might put us all in danger. Then what do you want us to do? Sit here and wait for whatever it is to come for us? Ryan snapped, although his bravado was fading, the thin mask of confidence not holding against the oppressive fear. What if we escape the back door? Megan suggested, her voice barely above a whisper, frantically scanning around the room as if the answer could materialize in the dark corners. That's a bad idea, Meg! Yelled Jenna. What if whatever is out there hears us? A moment of tense silence followed, where the only sounds were the crackling fire and the frantic pounding of their hearts. Each second felt like an eternity under that heavy shadow. Then what? Do we just sit here? Ryan crossed his arms, anger and fear battling within him. The flickering light cast doubt on their friendship, and the air grew thick with unspoken accusations. Maybe it's safer out there than in here, with everyone around the fire acting like nothing is wrong. That's not the point. We need to stick together. Jenna shot back, the weight of Mark's betrayal fresh in her mind. What if their bonds weren't as solid as they thought? Just then, a figure emerged from the hallway's shadows, pale and gaunt, stumbling weakly into the room. It was too dark to see clearly, but the energy shifted instantly, the air thick with a new layer of terror. "Mark?" Jenna whispered, disbelief blooming into horror. Could it be him? But as the figure moved closer, the details emerged: a disheveled face smeared with dirt, eyes wide and hollow, a broken stare that sent a chill down her spine. He opened his mouth to speak, but the sound that came out wasn't words, it was a desperate, guttural cry that echoed deeper fear into the room. "What is happening?" Sarah cried, backing away as if she could escape the reality unfolding in front of her. Jenna's breath caught in her throat. In that moment, a new terror sank in. Was Mark truly dead, or was this a terrifying echo of his dark past, a warning that their secrets were finally catching up to them? The figure lurched forward, desperation in every movement. Jenna could barely process it. Darkness had come calling, and whatever it was, it had her name on it. They were trapped, not just inside the room, but within a nightmare that wouldn't let them go. What stood before them was more than they could ever prepare for. Would they have the strength to face it, or would they be consumed by the very darkness they had tried so hard to escape? The figure staggered closer, its breath ragged, as if the very air it inhaled was thick with fear. Jenna's heart pounded so loudly she was convinced everyone could hear it, the rhythm of terror syncing with the gurgled cries of the person before her. "Mark?" she whispered again, this time desperate, clinging to hope even as dread clawed at her insides. But Mark wasn't just a shadow of who he used to be. This was something else entirely. "Get back! Don't let it near you!" Ryan shouted, his voice a mixture of panic and authority. Instinctively he stepped forward, his hands raised protectively. Whatever humanity lingered in that gaunt frame was rapidly being overwhelmed by something darker, more malevolent. "Please help me," the figure finally rasped, but it didn't sound like Mark at all. It sounded like a hollow echo, a cry forged in suffering. "What have you done, Mark?" Jenna said, voice cracking but laced with fear and confusion. She was no longer sure if they could trust him, or what had done this to him. The room was heavy with silence, as if time had stopped. Shadows loomed and swayed, closing in around them, thickening the very air they breathed. Megan, eyes wide, glanced toward the darkened hallway behind Mark, as if expecting more to follow. "Guys, we need to get out of here," she murmured, her voice shaky but punctuated by the rising sense of urgency. "This feels wrong. We shouldn't be here." "Shut up!" Ryan snapped, still focused on Mark, bracing himself as if preparing to confront a beast. "Just don't move. We need to understand what is happening." The disheveled figure surged forward, arms outstretched, and suddenly, Jenna felt a jolt of recognition. The frantic, wild look in his eyes reminded her of their happier times before the turmoil, before the secrets. Surely, there must be a flicker of the real Mark somewhere in there, buried beneath the layers of panic and despair. "Don't you remember me?" Jenna shouted into the encroaching darkness, desperately searching his blank gaze for any hint of the boy she loved. "It's Jenna! We need you! Talk to me!" But instead of comfort, dread spread through their group like a virus. The light from the fire flickered ominously, illuminating the lingering shadows that appeared at the doorway behind Mark. Forms shifted in the corners, merging with the darkness, and Jenna's breath quickened. "Look out!" Sarah screamed as she pointed behind them. Shadows twisted and writhed, revealing several more figures lurking in the hallway, silent but sinister. They shared the same haunted expression as the first, their hollow eyes fixated on the group. "Jenna! Run!" Ryan shouted, lunging as he grabbed her arm with a fierce grip. The primal instinct of survival kicked in, and the group erupted into chaos, pushing past one another toward the remnants of light. But just as they turned, Mark's voice, hoarse and desperate, clawed at them again. "No! Don't leave me!" In that moment, the room shook with the weight of their decision. Would they turn their backs on the one they once loved, or step deeper into the dark unknown to pull him back? Fear raced through them, a tangible thing, whispering to them that safety might rest in abandoning him. Then a piercing shriek cracked the air. It was neither human nor beast, a horrible sound that shattered the frail grains of hope they clung to. Jenna stumbled, heart pounding, as the figures lurched forward, a torrent of spectral anguish. "Jenna!" Ryan's voice cut through the chaos, urging her back towards the door. Torn and trembling, she faced the abyss of darkness that loomed, ready to swallow them whole. Yet, somewhere deep down, the lingering question pulsed: what had Mark gotten involved in? And could they truly escape this nightmare without losing everything? The shrieks intensified, echoing through the halls as the figures surged closer. Jenna felt her resolve fraying, every instinct screaming to flee. But she couldn't shake the urgency in Mark's voice, a raw, desperate cry that resonated in the depth of her very soul. In the split second of indecision, she had to choose. Would she fight or flee? As they barreled toward the door, the echoes of their past, intertwined with the malevolence of the present, closed in around them. And somewhere in the dark, something larger, something more haunting, grinned in anticipation. Would they escape? Or was this only the beginning of a darker revelation waiting just beyond the door? Jenna's heart raced as fear clawed at her throat, but the choice was slipping away. She could hear Ryan's voice through the cacophony, urging her to move, yet part of her was rooted to the ground, a magnetic pull toward Mark. His hollow gaze bore into her, merging the past with the terrifying present. "Jenna, move!" Ryan shouted, panic bursting in his voice, and she felt his grip tighten, dragging her back towards safety. But a deep, hollow ache grew within her, the memory of laughter, love, and secrets shared choking her resolve. Somewhere in the chaos, maybe there remained a flicker of the boy she loved. Just as Ryan pulled her further away, a hand brittle and cold gripped Jenna's leg. The icy touch sent a jolt of agony through her, and she gasped, eyes wide as she looked down. There it was, the disfigured, ghastly face of another shadowy figure creeping closer. Its jaw hung slack, stained with something dark that glistened in the firelight, and it wailed, the sound drowning in desperation. "Help! Don't leave me!" It echoed in Mark's voice, but the way it twisted the plea made Jenna's blood run cold. Whatever was left of him was wrapped in this nightmarish distortion, a puppet torn between worlds. "Jenna!" Ryan was practically dragging her now, ripping her from the grasp of that dark figure as it shrieked, "You belong with us." Heat surged within her, battling the oppressive chill. "I can't just leave him!" she cried, desperation pooling in her eyes as she caught Mark's gaze again. The shadows hungered, and she could see their hollow faces reflecting the collective despair, hungry for a taste of fear and pain. "Jenna, there's no time!" Ryan shouted, pulling her against him as they stumbled back toward the door. The noises rippled like a wave, groans and gasps, cries for help that transformed into threats, each one darker than the last. But just before they reached the exit, Jenna turned. She couldn't let go. Not yet. She didn't want to abandon Mark. She took a hesitant step forward, shaking off Ryan's grip. "No! Remember our promises? We never leave each other!" Jenna yelled, her own voice cracking under the weight of her choice. "Megan! Sarah! Help me!" she cried, raising her voice above the rising chaos. "We can't leave him!" Before anyone could respond, the figures closed in around them. Mark's eyes widened, desperation morphing into anger, and he lunged toward her, the shadows at his back becoming almost tangible and fierce. "Why?" Mark's voice echoed with an eerie duality, caught between pleading and rage. "Why would you betray me? I did this for us." The room trembled as shadows converged, crawling toward the flickering light. Jenna could barely breathe as the darkness thickened, wrapping around her like a shroud. The chilling fear hung in the air, suffocating her, a hunt in reverse, and now they were the prey. Ryan grabbed her shoulder, pulling her back sharply. "We're not leaving him! We're not!" With every ounce of will, Jenna focused on Mark. "Fight it! I know you're still in there." She stepped closer, feeling the cold emanate from the shadows pressing at her back. But just as she reached out, Mark's figure contorted, revealing not just pain, but the raw essence of something unnameable, a darkness that sought to absorb her light. "Join us," he rasped, and the figures behind him whispered in grotesque harmony, a chorus of lost souls echoing through the dark. The room brightened abruptly as a fierce spark flickered from the corner, illuminating shadows clinging desperately to the edges. They recoiled at the light but surged around Jenna and her friends, a dark current trying to drown them. "Now!" Ryan yelled, yanking Jenna toward a side door she hadn't noticed. The weight of uncertainty and terror pressed against her like a physical force, but the light, even if momentary, drew them in. That single, frantic moment, Jenna glanced back at Mark, and her heart wrenched. There was a split second where their eyes locked, and she saw the flicker of a boy, lost and terrified amidst the shadows. Then they burst through the door just in time, tumbling into the corridor. The anguished cries echoed behind them, reverberating against the walls. But as they crashed into the hallway, Jenna felt a dark presence looming just out of reach, trailing behind them like a shadow that refused to let go. "No!" she gasped, trembling as they steadied themselves. What had they escaped, and what had followed? In the chorus of screams fading in the distance, one haunting question hung heavy in the air: was Mark truly lost, or had they only disturbed the darkness? As they pressed on, the chilling realization crept in: there were secrets far more sinister waiting to unfurl. What had Mark opened up in that cursed place, and what consequences would they all have to face? Jenna stumbled into the cold, dimly lit hallway, her breath coming in ragged gasps. The sound of shadows still echoed in her mind, those piercing cries, that eerie chorus striving to pull her back. Ryan quickly checked the door, pushing against it to ensure the darkness remained sealed where it belonged. "What was that in there?" he shouted, his eyes wide, searching Jenna's face for answers, for any sign of the girl he once knew. "I don't know," she stammered, the memories lurking in the back of her mind like a forgotten terror. The weight of Mark's torn plea pressed down on her heart, a heart already splintering under the burden of choices. He said he did this for us. What does that even mean?" A flicker of fear ignited in Ryan's gaze. "We can't let whatever that was follow us, Jenna. We need to keep moving." But how could she just leave Mark behind? The image of his disfigured figure haunted her thoughts, each shadowy whisper clawing at her sanity. She paced, breathing heavily, feeling the tightness in her chest rise with overwhelming emotion. Just beyond the door, she had glimpsed something deeply unsettling. It felt as if a part of her was still tethered to him. Megan and Sarah rushed to join them, their faces pale as they emerged from the confusion behind. "What happened?" Megan asked, panic etched across her features. "It was Mark," Jenna said, choking on the words. He was different. Like he was trapped. We can't just leave him there. It's too dangerous," Sarah interjected, glancing nervously at the door. "Whatever was in there isn't just going to let us walk away." "Yeah, and if we stay too long, we could end up like him." Ryan's voice trailed off. The more they spoke, the worse the weight of realization became. As Jenna turned to face the increasingly suffocating gloom behind her, a low growl resounded from the doorway. It sounded almost like a warning, a promise that Mark's dark embrace wasn't finished with them yet. "This way," Ryan motioned, taking the lead down the corridor, the flickering lights revealing warped shadows across the walls. Each step felt like a descent into the unknown. Jenna hesitated, her legs heavy. The fear was palpable, and just when she thought about turning back, there it was, a sudden rush of familiar warmth glimmering in the dark. A haunting laughter echoed, ricocheting through her mind, sending a chill down her spine. "Jenna, help me!" The voice washed over her like a wave, unmistakably Mark's but distorted by desperation. It struck a nerve deep within her, igniting that painful ache again. "Go!" Ryan urged, and Jenna's resolve wavered. Could she really walk away, leaving behind the boy who once held her heart? "Jenna!" Megan grabbed her arm, forcing her to move. "We need to get out." But as they turned the corner, Jenna felt an icy draft whip past her, and the temperature dropped abruptly. The lights overhead flickered threateningly, plunging them into darkness for the briefest moment. In that second, Jenna heard it, a faint whisper that danced along the edge of her consciousness. Something was slipping between realms, moving closer. Before she could gather her thoughts, a violent crash sounded from behind them. The door they'd just escaped burst open. Dark figures poured into the hallway, solidifying into the shapes of lost friends twisted by agony. "No!" Jenna screamed, shoving forward, but the darkness surged, their hollow eyes gleaming with hunger. Sweat dripped from her brows as the shrieks rose from the depths of their ghostly throats, a tempest of anguish that shattered the air around them. "Run!" Ryan shouted as he pulled Jenna along, desperate urgency in his voice. They blasted through the corridors, each twist and turn filled with uncertainty. The walls felt alive, close enough that they could almost hear them breathe. "I want to let them take you!" Jenna cried, her heart pounding, but that faint, familiar laughter lingered around her, a cruel reminder of what they had escaped, yet again tethering her to the boy she once loved. As they dashed through the hallway, Jenna felt the weight of shadows tugging at her. It was a relentless grip, pulling her back toward the darkness. The corridor ahead wound endlessly, stretching out like an inescapable web. When Jenna looked back, she swore she caught a glimpse of Mark, his haunting eyes searching for escape within the grotesque figures. "Guys, we have to make a choice," she yelled, the urgency clawing at her throat. "We can't let this happen, we need to help him." "Jenna, focus!" Ryan shouted, his face taut with worry. "We can't risk it. We need to find a way out of here before they catch up." But deep down, Jenna knew. The darkness was more than just Mark now, it threatened to consume them all. As they pushed deeper into the maze-like building, Jenna's heart raced. There was something lurking, something waiting for them to slip. What awaited them in the shadows? Would they be able to escape the impending doom, or was it too late for all of them? A decision loomed ahead, but Jenna was uncertain. What would happen if she chose to confront the darkness instead? The air was thick with tension, each breath Jenna took feeling like a betrayal. As the darkness clawed at her heels, the chaos of their escape morphed into a bitter reminder of lost choices and a past unraveling. "Where do we go?" Megan yelled, her voice laced with terror. The echo of their footsteps bounced off the walls, and every creak felt like the ground beneath them was alive and hungry. Ryan glanced around, his eyes darting from one shadow to another. "There!" he shouted, pointing to a doorway at the far end of the corridor, barely illuminated by flickering emergency lights. They raced toward it, Jenna's heart thudding wildly. A sudden chill swept over them, a biting wind that felt almost sentient, stirring the air like whispers shared among friends long gone. The shadows surged, clawing with icy fingers, and Jenna felt a bolt of panic shoot through her. "Just keep moving," Ryan urged, urgency etched in his voice. As they reached the door, it creaked open just slightly, as if inviting them in. Jenna hesitated, feeling the pull of the darkness behind her, memories of Mark combating the cry for survival. But there was little time to dwell. With one swift motion, Ryan shoved the door wide, and they stumbled into the room. It was a sparse, dimly lit office, papers strewn across a desk, a flickering computer casting long shadows. Jenna's stomach sank as she took in the atmosphere. Surveillance photos lined the walls, their subjects rigid, each one marked with the same twisted expressions. Faces she recognized yet felt distorted, twisted into grotesque forms of anguish. "Are those?" Sarah whispered, her voice trembling as she stepped closer to examine the prints. "People we used to know," Jenna confirmed, dread pooling in her chest. "Maybe even friends." This was no ordinary building. Each photo felt like a memory tainted by darkness, dragging Jenna further into despair. "They're like Mark," Ryan murmured, his voice suddenly grave. "Trapped in their own hell." Panic constricted Jenna's throat. "If we don't help him, this will be us." Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from the hallway, sending shivers down Jenna's spine. The darkness was relentless. Whatever was down there wouldn't allow them to hide for long. She could almost feel its breath, a chilling promise laced with hunger. "We need to barricade the door," Megan shouted, her eyes wide with fear. They rushed to push the desk in front of it, the wood scraping against the floor like nails on a chalkboard. As they strained against the weight, the crash echoed again, louder this time. The door rattled, and a dark silhouette loomed on the other side, a figure emerging from the shadows, its hollow eyes staring through the break in the door. It wasn't just darkness. It was something more, something alive that craved them, that knew their fears. Jenna Mark's voice emerged, tinged with pain, echoing through the space. "Help me, no!" Jenna's voice broke. She pressed her palms against the desk, fighting the urge to leap toward the voice whispering promises of escape. "You're not real! You can't be!" But the darkness shifted, flickering, and for a brief moment, she thought she saw him, his face twisted, but eyes pleading, reaching out as if to drag her into the chasm. "Focus, Jenna!" Ryan shouted, pulling her back. His grip was firm yet shaking. "We need to hold on. It's trying to lure you in." Desperation surged through Jenna as she fought to hold on to reality. An image of the office blurred, shadows creeping closer, the wall of bodies outside growing more restless with each heartbeat. "What do we do?" Megan cried, glancing around for answers as the rattle at the door grew frantic. "This isn't just about us anymore," Ryan said, his voice low and steady. "If Mark's still in there, we need to find a way to save him. We confront it together, no one gets left behind." With every ounce of breath left in her, Jenna nodded. They would face the shadows together. But as she turned back to the door, the silhouette loomed larger still, the whispers growing into a horrific cacophony. "Then let us go," she whispered, feeling the pulse of desperation bloom within her once more. But even as they prepared to confront the darkness, Jenna felt that something lurking deep inside her might not want to escape after all. What if the darkness held more than just fear? What if it offered a twisted salvation? She had a choice to make. Would she grasp onto the light, or allow herself to be consumed? The desk shuddered as if it sensed the threat pushing against the door. Jenna's heart raced as adrenaline coursed through her veins, the desperate need to save Mark battling against the weight of fear. She forced herself to look at Ryan and Megan, their faces streaked with determination, lit by the unsettling glow of the flickering lights. "On 3!" Ryan shouted, gritting his teeth. 1, 2, 3. With all their might, they shoved the desk against the door. The silhouette on the other side pressed harder, feeling more like a living thing now, surging with a dark, infectious energy. Jenna felt the shadows begin to entwine around her legs, a tugging sensation that threatened to pull her under. "Come on!" Megan cried, sweat beading on her forehead. "We can't let it win!" They pressed their shoulders against the desk, the wood creaking in protest. A loud bang echoed as something collided with the door again, the weight of it threatening to snap the desk in two. Jenna's breath came in short gasps. "Jenna!" Mark's voice called again, this time laced with urgency. "You have to trust me. Let me in." She flinched, memories flooding her, late-night conversations, shared laughter, the way he used to lighten her darkest days. But this wasn't he, the Mark she knew. Was it merely a trap? "Hold the line!" Ryan shouted, and the desperation in his voice snapped Jenna back to reality. "No!" Megan shrieked, her eyes wide. "It can't be him. It's using him." Jenna's palm pressed against the wooden surface, the pulse of terror merging with courage. Maybe it was the only way to break free, maybe they had to confront whatever lay behind that door. "Ryan, count again," she urged. "Okay. On 3. Together. 1, 2, 3. They heaved against the desk, their bodies straining with terror and hope, wanting to break through not just for Mark but for all the souls trapped beyond. As they pushed, the doors shook violently, a deep, rumbling growl reverberating through it. Suddenly, the door slammed open with an explosive force, tossing the desk aside and throwing them all to the ground. Jenna landed hard, her breath knocked out of her as the dark figure loomed just beyond the threshold, the shadows swirling like a storm. It was not just Mark this thing wore his face but held a darkness that seemed to pulse with malice. The eyes, once warm, now glinted like shards of ice, reflecting their deepest fears. "Help me," the creature rasped, its voice gravelly and twisted. "No!" Ryan shouted, scrambling back, grabbing Jenna's arm to yank her away. "That's not him." The room felt smaller, the shadows creeping in, slimy whispers coiling around them. Let me free. I can save you. Is that what you really want? Jenna shouted, heart racing as she finally found her voice amidst the chaos. Or do you want to drag us down with you? For the briefest moment, the figure hesitated, anguish flickering across its twisted features. That flicker felt real, a glimmer of the mark she loved. Jenna, please, tears stung her eyes. I'm not leaving you behind, but we have to take back control. We need to fight this. Just then, the shadows lashed out, striking like whips, snapping at their heels, clawing at their sanity. Whatever was in control was angry now, and it pushed forward, lifting Mark's body with darkness creeping from every pore. Fight it, Mark! Jenna yelled, shaking off Ryan's grip, stepping closer. You're stronger than this. But as she approached, the darkness surged, engulfing her in a swirling void. She gasped, struggling to breathe, devastated by the clash of memories that pulled her apart. Jenna! She heard Ryan's voice, but it sounded distant, muffled. The darkness recoiled, whispering promises of relief, blending her fears with visions of the past. Flashes of laughter, warmth, solace. And then silence. In that instant, Jenna realized, she had to make a choice, to let go of what held her back or embrace the chaos threatening to consume them. No! I won't give in! With a final surge of strength, she reached for the remnants of Mark that still lived inside the void, desperate to pull him back. But the shadows pressed harder, threatening to cloak her in despair. The pull was relentless. What if Mark is gone? A voice in her head whispered. And just as she grasped the light hanging at the edges of her mind, a horrifying roar echoed from the shadows, shaking the walls around them, as the darkness shuddered and tentatively pulled back. But what lay beyond was even more terrifying than the darkness they faced. Jenna felt it, the weight of dread. What if they stepped too far into the shadows, and all they found would be nightmares made flesh? Together! Ryan shouted, and Jenna turned to see him gathering his strength. Together, she echoed, heart racing, but suddenly that flicker of hope was snuffed out. What if it was too late? In that moment, all they could do was close their eyes and step into the unknown. Would they drown in darkness or emerge transformed? The darkness loomed over Jenna, swallowing her whole. The air crackled with an electric tension, and the familiar scent of dust and despair hung heavily. Her heart thudded in her chest, a primal rhythm drowning out Ryan's calls. Don't lose yourself! He shouted, but his voice felt thin, as if it were coming from miles away. She squeezed her eyes shut against the cacophony of memories dragging her deeper. Was it really Mark's face she was seeing, or just a ghostly mask, twisted by malevolent forces? The line of reality blurred, and she felt an icy grip on her throat. With every ounce of courage, Jenna opened her eyes to see Ryan and Megan at her sides, their expressions etched with fierce determination. They were together, yet the shadows seemed to mock their unity, swirling and laughing, as if the darkness knew their deepest fears. Jenna! Ryan reached out, grabbing her hand tightly. We can't let it take you too. Suddenly, the creature shifted, Mark's visage flickering as shadows flicked around it like flames. You don't understand, it hissed, eyes glinting dangerously. This is your chance to escape. From everything, from this emptiness. Yes. A voice darted through Jenna's mind. Finally, freedom. She stumbled, caught in a web of self-doubt. The quiet whispers became louder, battering her thoughts. You're nothing without him. Let go. You don't have to fight. Jenna! Focus! Megan shouted, breaking through the chaos like a lifeline. Jenna locked her gaze onto her friend's wild, passionate eyes. No! Jenna shouted back, summoning every ounce of her strength. This isn't Mark. We've fought too hard to let it win. With that resolve, she felt the energy shift. The shadows that had once pulled at her suddenly recoiled, confused by the surge of defiance. Let me help you. The creature lunged forward again, its voice dripping with desperation. It took a step closer, and Jenna felt the pull to reach out, to say yes. But she'd learned the cost of such decisions. No! Jenna screamed, shaking her head violently as if trying to dislodge the thoughts. The shadows screamed in anger, dark fingers grasping at the edges of her sanity. She could feel the darkness tightening around her mind, but Jenna, like a dam breaking, channeled memories of laughter and love, meaningful glimpses of life with Mark before it all changed. The furious force of her determination surged outward, causing the shadows to sputter. For each flicker of dark temptation, she envisioned the ember of their joy. Yes, they had loved, yes, they had been happy. Those moments mattered more than the darkness that sought to define them now. Ryan and Megan rallied beside her, holding onto their hands with a vice-like grip. The three formed an unbreakable circle defiance against despair. "Fight back!" Megan cried, amplifying Jenna's resolve until it felt like a blast of bright light. Suddenly, Mark's dark figure wavered, his true self trying to break through. "Jenna, help me," he pleaded again. Jenna saw a moment of clarity in his eyes, desperate and pleading, but the erratic whispering around them swelled, threatening to suffocate. "You're not free yet," it roared, unleashing a torrent of shadowy tendrils that lashed out at Jenna, Ryan, and Megan, dragging them toward the monstrosity pulling at their very essence. Jenna's grip tightened around her friends. "Hold on. Together." Amidst the agony of the shadows clawing at her being, Jenna felt a shimmer of hope, a flicker of their shared strength. But then it dawned on her, what if that darkness was just a monster? What if it was a part of them, the pain they had all bottled up, the fears they hadn't faced? "Think, Jenna," a voice whispered in her mind, and she realized, "we have to face it," she yelled, her heart racing faster than before. But just as they were ready to charge forward into the chaotic maelstrom, the shadows lunged with a horrific roar, the darkness tightening around them. In that split second, Jenna's vision filled with swirling dread. Would they be consumed by their fears, or would they finally confront what lay hidden, deep within the shadows? Their fate hung in the balance, and all they could do was plunge into the depths of despair. But would it unleash their liberation or send them spiraling into the void? As the shadows tightened their grip around Jenna, Ryan, and Megan, an overwhelming force surged within her, igniting something deep in her heart. It was the realization that they were not just battling dark figures. They were facing the remnants of their fears, their regrets, and the pain that had clawed at the edges of their lives. With that revelation, Jenna's gaze hardened, lighting a fire in her spirit unlike anything she had ever felt. "Together!" she shouted over the cacophony of whispers, gripping her friend's hands even tighter. "We face this. We confront our darkness." The shadows hesitated, as if testing the strength of their resolve. But Jenna could see the flicker of familiar warmth in the core of that darkness, a haunting visage, pleading for help amidst the storm. "Mark!" she cried out, feeling a connection spark despite the malevolent force that encased him. "We're here to help you. You're stronger than this." The creature recoiled, Mark's eyes flashing with light, battling the haze of shadows. For a fleeting moment, Jenna saw him, the boy she loved, torn but still alive beneath it all. "Fight it! You have to fight!" she urged, feeling time stretch with every desperate second. Then the shadows screamed in unspeakable anguish, their power weakening against the trio's united front. The air around them crackled, charging with potential. Energy surged through Jenna, fueled by memories dancing in the sunlight, laughter shared over late-night snacks, the warmth of friendship enveloping her like a comforting embrace. "We're not letting you go this time," Megan cried, her voice piercing through the chaos like a beacon. The shadows hissed, struggling as their collective memories enveloped them, a torrent of bright, hopeful light shattering the suffocating abyss. Jenna could feel it, the warmth radiating from Ryan and Megan, intertwining with her own light, forming a shield against the encroaching darkness. "Push! Now!" The words tumbled from her, an unstoppable wave fueled by conviction. And together they launched forward. The darkness screamed, folding inwards, twisting and writhing against the onslaught of their combined force. It was surreal, like watching a storm unravel before their eyes. The shadows dissipated like smoke against fire, illuminating the room, brightening the once intimidating landscape into something almost serene. Suddenly, with a deafening crash, the darkness splintered, dissipating into the air, and Mark's figure fell forward, the shadows retreating from him like they feared the light he was engulfed in. Jenna, he breathed, his voice gravelly but strangely familiar. You came for me? Yes. Jenna gasped, lunging forward and wrapping her arms around him, her heart soaring as she felt warmth radiate from his body once more. You're back. We can fight this together. But Mark took a cautious step back, shadows still clinging to his form, like a thick fog refusing to break free. I don't know if I can. What I've done, what I've unleashed, he whispered, despair lacing his voice. We can face it together, Ryan urged, stepping next to Jenna, fists clenched at his side. You're not alone. We won't let you go again. At that moment, Jenna felt a connection grow stronger. They were not just friends, they were family, forged in struggles, love, and hope. And it was time to embody that very strength. Let us help you. Don't fight this alone, please, Jenna pleaded. The weight of memories hung in the air, echoes of laughter mingling with shadows of pain. Slowly, Mark's face regained a hint of its former clarity, and he nodded, swallowing hard. I need to let it go. Trembling, Mark clenched his fists and closed his eyes. With palpable intensity, he exhaled, and in the next moment, a flood of darkness erupted from within him. Jenna gasped as dark tendrils ripped away, dissipating into the air around them, light churning and swirling, forcing away the remnants of the nightmare. The room brightened, blooming with vibrant colors, laughter echoing through the newly empty corridors. Each shard of darkness sent the specters they had faced scattering, their mournful screams fading into whispers, evaporating. Mark fell to his knees as the last of it slipped away, tears streaming down his face, terror slowly being replaced by relief. Jenna dropped beside him, wrapping her arms around him tightly, sobs of realization mingling with joy. We did it! Megan cried, collapsing beside them, the remnants of fear replaced with a fierce sense of triumph. We faced it all together. Together, Ryan echoed, relief spilling from his voice, eyes wide with wonder. And in that moment, amidst their shared breaths and laughter, they all reached out, grasping hands as though reminding each other that they would never allow the darkness to separate them again. And so, beneath the warm glow of newfound hope, they moved forward past the memories and shadows, embracing each step of their journey together. As they left that haunted place behind, the sun began to rise, casting a soft light and warming the cold earth once more. It wasn't just the end of a dark chapter. It was the beginning of a brighter one. They had lifted each other from the depths of despair, and wouldn't soon forget the power of their shared light. Remember this, no matter what, Jenna said, wiping away her tears, her heart full. Friendship is stronger than any darkness. We will always rise. Mark nodded, a faint smile crossing his lips, still one with shadows but filled with promise. They took their first steps into the bright new day, knowing that together, they could face anything life threw at them, and as the sunlight bathed them softly, they knew deep down they would never let each other go again. Now that the tale has reached its final conclusion, we want you to take action. You need to subscribe now to our channel so you don't miss any upcoming exclusive stories that could deeply resonate with you. Smash the like button now and give a shout out to the algorithm, making sure our stories reach more people who need them. Flood the comments with your reactions about this ending, your theories, and what you think the next story should be. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to be part of this incredible journey. Your unwavering support makes all the difference. Be part of our community.